Hey, welcome back to part 2 of my weathering of BCOL 4642. It's an Athearn Genesis C44-9wl. Yeah, so this part is quite critical. You don't want to overdo this, because if you do, you have a lot of rework to do. So I have not sealed any of this stuff in, and so everything I've done up until this point, if I mess this up, I have to start again. So I have a very light mix of this hull red and orange, lots and lots of X20A, and I'm just slowly adding it on. I come up from the bottom of the engine and I kind of go upward toward the white, just so I can see it kind of appearing slowly. And I just need enough on here to do those happy faces, so I don't want to go crazy. Where the tape is, those are the former BC rail flag that has been kind of, I think it was like a vinyl applicator or whatever, vinyl sticker. The gunge left over behind is left a bit of dirt. So there, definitely adding a bit more spray. This one I'm just touching up with a Q-tip, and I will go and respray and blend in that area with the airbrush. So now I'm just moving on while I have things in the cup, hitting back onto the fuel tank. The fuel tank probably got 3 or 4 of these different coats of different colors, slightly, and I eventually ended up with more of like a blackish rust. But yeah, just using up the rest of the cup here. So it's been kind of a slow transformation up until now. So this part 2 is going to really show this thing coming to life. The first video, if you watched it, was basically just getting the undertones right, fading out the entire engine, and now I'm starting to kind of do the last layers, which is really going to make things pop. So a little personal stuff here. I spent the last 2 weeks in pretty severe pain since I broke my ankle and had surgery yesterday. So I'm off work now, but yeah, working the last 2 weeks wasn't pleasant. This is my last video that I have recorded, so I don't know if I'm going to have any content. I can't really sit in a chair for too long, so I don't think I'll be doing any kind of model building or anything like that. I'm supposed to have my ankle above my head at all times, so unless I figure out a way to do modeling upside down or work upside down, please don't expect too much coming from this channel for the next month or so. I'll see what I can do, but I think I'm bedridden. Anyway, so I hope you enjoy this last video for a while. A little bit of technique here. I don't know if you've noticed, but I always start off the model and I come up. So I'm checking my spray continuously, and as more of the grime is on the bottom of this fuel tank, I don't mind coming up from the bottom and starting there. I'm okay to add more at the bottom. I just don't want to put a big blob on the top of this fuel tank. When I'm satisfied about what my spray is doing, I can move to the top and bring it down. But you definitely don't want to start on the model unless you're satisfied with what's coming out of the nozzle. And a good way to find out what's coming out of the nozzle is to spray somewhere else first, and then come back to the model, and you know your line thickness, you know how much is actually coming out, and then you can spray properly and you can get it right the first time, and you don't have to erase or do something anyway. But yeah, and this area here is a good test area too. This is the really filled in area between the 2 air reservoirs, so you can pretty much go crazy, and in these areas is where you kind of want to get your skill level up, because there's not much of a consequence if you do mess up. However, where I was just spraying on the side of the fuel tank, that's very visible, and you want to get it right. So yeah, play around with areas like on the end of the fuel tanks here where the kick up is. You can play around until the cows come home on that side. No one's really going to see it. So I would suggest getting used to airbrushing on the areas that are not so noticeable. And you can still make quick progress doing that, and then come back to the areas that are more visible when your confidence is up. I also had a lot of people reaching out to me, asking about how I do my setup, how I do my spraying. I know I watched a video last week on Dan doing the same thing, basically giving you guys an overview of how he does things. We don't work the same paints, and we probably do the same kind of techniques, but we definitely don't use the same paints. So I will put together something. I mean, maybe that is something that I can do, not specifically doing a model, but maybe just show you my setup. It is actually quite good. I got lucky buying a really nice airbrush booth that is quite large, so I can get right inside the thing. Has very good suction, so I don't even have to wear a mask. Yeah, I did start with a cardboard box and a store-bought fan and lots of duct tape and jimmied something up. But yeah, I've got some advice on that too. And yeah, I got a couple guys in Canada here have been texting me back and forth, asking. They're just starting out with their airbrushes, and they're asking what I'm doing too. So I will put a video out because you guys seem to be interested in that. It's I don't think it'll be too long of a video, but I'll give it a go and tell you guys what I know as far as what I do anyway, to get me the results that I get. So if you go back to my old channel and look at some of the earlier work that I'd done, I used to tape these areas up and be really pedantic about, not getting any overspray anywhere. I've since then got more confidence with my airbrush, and you can see what I do now is I just start in the middle of the vent and I work my way to the edge. And I have a very thin spray, so I can get like almost like a pencil line along the edge. And I do like a little bit of overspray, not too much obviously, but I'm way more in control than I was 3 years ago. And as your confidence goes up, you can get away with things and move a little faster. So again, this is just a light mix. Nothing I do is very heavy mix. I have to, that's why I'm spending a lot of time in these grills here. I have to go over them like 5 times to get the color to sit. But it's much better to do that than to go into the full force opaque color. You don't want to do that. So in this area of the sill, I'm actually trying to think like water. So when it rains on the top and the roof, that washes down all this diesel soot. And it seems to come down in a few places, like right after that vent and right in front of the grill at the back. It seems to, I guess, when the train is moving, obviously things are going to be windy and whatever, and the water's going to accumulate in those areas and then flow down the side. And it also seems to spread out on the walkways. So I always make sure to hit, if I'm going to do my panel lining, I line down those areas, and then I do a little bit of a puddle on the walkways and follow that all the way down through the fuel tank too. That's where all that streaking comes down the fuel tank. You trace it back up. On most prototypes, you can see that it's coming off the roof, draining down the side, making its way all the way down the fuel tank and all the way down to the tracks, and then it gets spit up onto the wheels and everything else in the grime. But yeah, pay attention to, like, think like water. Think about how things would drain off this engine, and follow that through with your airbrushing and your oils and anything else, your regular brushing as well. Now, I've seen prototype photos of the roof of this engine completely black, like just there is no red on it whatsoever. And that's the ultimate, like that's obviously the worst it's been. And then I've seen it where it's fairly clean. So I kind of wanted to go in between and hit the roof middle, a little bit in the middle here. So that's what I was doing there. And I'm back up to the workbench here, just using some oils. Those straps there are probably just regular steel straps, and they are rusted. So I'm just adding a bit of rust onto there and starting to add some of the panel lining there. So I'm wetting the area first, and then I have my liner brush dipped in, this is Winsor & Newton Lamp Black. Again, lots of water, not much oil. I think my paints are going to last until I die. I don't expect to be buying any more Winsor & Newton until I die. I'll probably pass that on to my kids. The way I use it. I've seen guys dump out heaps of this stuff onto, and I don't know what they're going to do with it, but a little goes a hell of a long way with these Winsor & Newton oils. I just stick the tip of the brush in the end of the tube, and that's enough to do an entire side of an engine. Anyway, enough on that. But you can see now I'm tracing down where I see the soot coming off of the roof, and I'm making sure that there is along the walkway, long hood edge, making sure there's a lot of dirt collecting in there, and grease and grime, and just making sure that those panels are highlighted and starting to pop. Just like when I do my airbrushing, I start with one color and I kind of run that down so it's almost done, and I add another color. I'm constantly just kind of changing the shade of browns and blacks and whatever in the cup and the airbrush. I do the same with the oils as well. So I got a little dab of each of the oils there, and I just mix them into a single puddle, and so I can go from a darker tone to a lighter tone or whatever. I think here I've added a bit more brown into that black that I was using before, and just varying the tones. And I can go I can go back to black if I want, but yeah, I wouldn't be too particular on starting fresh. Just, once you got the puddle going, just keep adding to it, and you'll get all kinds of shades and varieties of everything going on, rust to black and black to rust. So yeah, just kind of don't worry about it, and you'll get a good result, I think, just by all the variability that you're introducing just by mixing a puddle. So I'll just finish up on the workbench here by doing the sunshade. This thing was like 90% rust when there was a few areas of silver shining through. So just hitting it very gently, I'll outline the area that is going to be staying in silver, and I'll be very careful to paint around those two holes. And yeah, so once I get that done, I'll be heading back down to the airbrush booth. After looking at this thing, I realized that the dust on the side here wasn't deep enough. I had to go back and hit it again, which is also good. I didn't put too much on the first time, but there probably wasn't enough to make anything show up when I put the happy faces on. So just adding a titch more, just to darken that red rust on the side for when I do the next step. Well, it's a bit blurry here. Sorry about that. It's focusing on my hand instead of what I'm doing. But I basically just have a Q-tip, fresh, brand new Q-tip, and I put a little dab of water on the end just to moisten it. And what I'm doing is basically scratching in those happy faces and following the prototype photo to my left on my laptop, and just trying to basically get them as close as I can to the prototype. And I think I actually did turn the engine upside down to do the other ones because I'm left-handed. So for access for me, I actually have to work upside down on the next one, I believe. Yeah, here we go. So yeah, whatever you got to do to get comfortable. Resting my left hand on my right thumb there, just so I'm very stable, so I can do a good thing, a good happy face. Here again, hitting the ends, they weren't dark enough. Looked at the prototype photos again, I saw all these are darker. So I've got a darker mix of that rust, more black and hull red and orange. And the stairwells were really dirty on this locomotive as well. So I'm hitting all sides of the stairwell and the back of the pilot, and the front of the pilot obviously too. But yeah, this thing was pretty grimy from the sill downward. So just, I think I've added 3 or 4 coats to this thing, just slowly darkening it and getting it more matching the photo that I'm after. Yeah, so where am I going to go next here? I think I'm going to go to the roof. Well, actually, I'm adding more to the trucks because they weren't dark enough. Yeah, I forget where I'm going to go here. Let's see. I think I'm going to go to the roof now. Yeah. Okay, so here we go. This is kind of getting into the final stretches here. The roof. So I hadn't really done much to the roof yet. As I said before, I didn't want to blanket this thing in soot like I have seen it. I wanted to kind of have some of that red showing through. And I definitely wanted that safety. There's a safety tread walkway going down the middle there that I did put on, but totally wiped it out because I didn't like it. But I will put that on the end. But I wanted that to show up, so I didn't want the roof completely black. And I didn't want to get rid of all the details that I put on the cab too, all that airbrushing. But starting with the stack there, like that's obviously where most of the diesel dust is going to accumulate and come out of that stack. So that is generally where I like to do the darkest and most deep complete coverage. And where I'm brushing now with that intake, that also gets hit because it's a surface that gets hit. Both of those surfaces that are vertical get hit quite hard with the diesel dust. I had gone into the grills. I painted all the grills at the bottom, like spraying through the grill, getting that I guess the under detail blackened. Trying not to go outside of those grills to leave some of the red. So I wanted each one of those things to be represented individually. Where am I going now? Okay, so yeah, this is some fine detail stuff here. This is basically tracing along the lines of the doors, along the cracks there. There was good soot accumulation all along the tops of the doors and going down some of the doors. So here I am testing out the airbrush again to make sure I have a very fine spray. I don't want this to be like a huge blap on the side of the hood here. I want it to be a very fine line. And I've got to get that perfect because I only get one chance to do this right. Otherwise, I got to wipe it off and start again. And again, you don't. This is where you want to be confident when you're finishing up, because I've put a lot of work into this thing already. I'm probably up to like 6 or 7 hours. And so the last thing I want to do is put a big blob of black on it. So come in real close, get really fine spray. I do have the pressure turned down, so I'm probably at 15 psi right now, super low pressure, and that I find that's with this airbrush, it's a Harder than Steenbeck Ultra. I find that when I turn the pressure down to like 15, I can get super fine lines. If you go back to my old channel, you'll see I airbrushed that stamp out of Ukraine back in 2022. It's kind of like the FU Moskva one where the guy's giving the finger to the ship that's sinking. That's one of the first things I did with this airbrush, and I did most of that at super low pressure because doing the army fatigues with an airbrush, I had to be, very precise, and I wanted fine lines. So if you go back and see that work on my old channel, you'll see how I get fine lines. So what I was saying previously about thinking like water, here I am bringing the dust off the roof, the diesel dust off the roof, down the sides, onto the walkways, and I think I even went down onto the fuel tank here in some cases. But so bringing that line down, spreading it out left and right when you hit the walkway, and then dropping down below. This walkway is actually etched metal, so it would go through. So here I am, adding more to the fuel tank. And that is the source of all this stuff coming. Another thing you may have noticed is that I keep coming back to specific or different areas all the time. Like I don't finish an area completely every time I spray it. I maybe do 25% of it, and then I move to a different area of the locomotive and I spray a bit there, and then I come back to that area and add a bit more. But what you want to do is slowly add up and build up, and you don't necessarily have to finish an entire area all at once. Just like I had to add more of that red dust on there, I'm darkening the grills again because they weren't dark enough. All right, now I feel like they're not dark enough. But it's better to just go and do light areas or light sprays on area and then come back and add more later. So this is me doing the anti-slip walkway again. I did it originally first up, and it was a dumb move. And so now I'm doing it as a final piece, and I think it looks much better. So yeah, I've reached the stage now where I'm going to install those handrails. These are fresh out of the box. They have no weathering on them whatsoever. So just before I finish up my weathering, I want to put them back on, so they do get a little bit of the overspray from the airbrush, and they don't look super bright white. And those of you who've been down this path before, putting the railings on is such a satisfying thing because you're like, I'm almost done. And it just feels good to get those railings back on. Here, that tape's been on that locomotive for quite a while, and the Athearn windows are actually individual pieces, so they do pop out from time to time. Just an easy insert back into the slot there. So just be careful about that when you do peel your tape off. You might take a few windows with you, but just a toothpick or something, you can get them back in. Just jam them back in. And I think they are using kind of like a canopy glue, which is really super sticky, so they do go back in. I'll just give you guys a final spin here, just to show you how we ended up at the airbrush. I will head upstairs just to do some final touches to this locomotive. But yeah, this is pretty much done, and I do like how it turned out. So my final touch here is just to use my Bibio pens there, and I just put my initials and the date on the bottom of the fuel tank. I guess it's my signature. Anyway, so that's first one for 26. And then I try and pick a sunny day to take some photographs, still photographs. I always like the sunshine on these things. It seems to really bring out the colors, and there's no hiding anything when you have the full sun on your locomotive. So any kind of mistakes you'll see here, if there are any, let me know what you guys think. I think this one turned out really nice. I'm quite pleased with this. This is my second try at this locomotive, but the colors on this one I think are just fantastic, and that's about it.